What's up YouTube, Dale here from Zephyr, bringing you live commentary from a duel at Locals. On the left we have Voiceless Voice with the brand new support from Legacy of Destruction. On the right we've got myself playing Tempai for the first time in person. So we're starting off with Diviner of the Herald sending Trius. And this is pretty much going to get a very decent end board for Voiceless Voice. So we're going to be facing up a fairly strong end board in this position. So Trius, tribute off the Diviner, summon out low from the deck through the Diviner as well. Obviously no Baron available anymore, but we're getting direct access to Blessing, which ultimately, as the combo continues, will mean that there won't be any, or the ability to target, and I'll be forced to attack the Ritual monster, which when it is summoned will be a base of like 4,100. Yikes. So using Saphira to ditch the Ritual spell card. Not much has really changed for Voiceless Voice post Legacy of Destruction. They get two brand new cards. One is the Ritual of Saphira, which you may or may not want to play. And if you do, you'll play it at 1 because it's like a win more card. And then you do also get a brand new Blessing spell, which allows you to Ritual summon a little bit more consistently, which is kind of okay. But yeah, the idea is you still want to leave your Skull Guardian. Some players still like to go into Dynamundo, which can be quite risky because if it gets hit in the draw phase with something like a droplet, or if one of the targets gets removed from the graveyard and you can't protect it or stop it, you kind of leave yourself defenseless. The reason you would do that is it sets up the ability of low to get you the trap card as well. But ultimately, they've already got direct access to get to the trap card because they opened up the Diviner. And with Diviner not being stopped, it's in a good position. We've got Magnamute, which is obviously going to be able to trigger in the end phase to search as well. And we've gone into an IP Masquerader. So it looks like we're going for, an IP into an SP, which is great, plus the negate off the back of the Skull Guardian. And then two sets that we don't know. We know one of them. You can make the assumption that the other one will be something like an Imperm. And it looks like in the end phase, we searched out the Saravis, which is kind of cool. So we're going to draw for turn for the Tempais. Let's see how these get rolling. Now, I think luckily one of my top decks, or one of my cards in hand, was Forbidden Droplet. So we're going to activate the field spell, just activating it, not declaring the effect as of yet. So it's whether they want to negate the activation. And it looks like they're going to negate the activation, or attempt to negate the activation with the Skull Guardian. And we're going to be chaining Forbidden Droplet, sending the Biru, which is relatively pointless in this build, and the Green Dragon, in order to negate IP and the Skull Guardian, then resolve the effect of the field spell to add a Tempai and then discard a card. Now obviously at this point you've burnt through an okay amount of resource, but you still have 3 more cards to play with, and it's all about where you're going to go. So I decided to discard the Kaiman because I've added the Paedra. We're going to normal the Paedra and search. Now I'm completely protected during the main phase 1, which is really important, so that's going to give me access to the Kaiman again, pretty much doing the exact same job of what you need to. Now, this is where the more and more I've played it, I've learned a little bit more. Like, I tend to go battle phase and then activate the Kaiman, but then I think I kind of learned my lesson that if you get ashed in the battle phase with Kaiman, you've got nowhere to go. Whereas you're better off just activating it outside of the battle phase, adding the fire, or like adding the orange one, and go from there. Now, at the moment, I can't take any battle damage, but mine can be destroyed by battle. So we're going to declare an attack with the Paedra. That's then going to trigger the Chandra's effect to summon. That's going to get hit with Imperm. And in response, we're going to use Paedra's effect to Synchro Summon, which then gets responded with the trap card to destroy. And then we respond with the Chandra to then Synchro Summon. So we've had to use like our Synchro Summon plays in order to dodge those effects. However, as we work this backwards, what's going to be really nice is now we go into the Synchro. We've dodged 2 targeted effects. We're now still able to resolve the Chandra effect to special from the deck and resolve the effect of the Synchro. What have we done there? I'm not sure how that's resolved there. I managed to bring 2 back from the grave, but it should have been the Chandra back from the grave with the Synchro, and then the green one will be coming from the deck. I do play 2, so obviously that's just a little bit of a misstep with all of the playing the chains backwards. But yeah, the idea would be that that will be coming from the deck. You'd still have the exact same thing. And then on the declaration attack, you can bring back the Paedra. Paedra can obviously kill over the IP. And we still got the ability left. So we only have 1 more that can Synchro Summon, and that is the Fadra. So the Fadra can then Synchro 2, go into the Trident Dragon. And then Trident Dragon now has the ability to pop 2. So it doesn't matter what 2 we pop, to be honest. Obviously, you want to make sure you pop the field spell because it makes Trident Dragon like 6k. we still got the attack left on the Chandra, so we go 1 attack with the Trident Dragon into the low, and then 2 more attacks for 12k of game, and that pretty much ends it there. So now, obviously, on reading the trap card, which I should have done earlier, it can only be activated during the main phase, so I didn't even need to worry about the pop, which was a bit silly, but it's weird. Anyway, we're moving to game 2. Quick, swift one on that one. It kind of shows you that I even played through an additional form of interruption I didn't need to play through and still was able to complete the OTK. Like, the deck is crazy powerful. And it's less so not knowing the Tempais and just not knowing the Voiceless voice cards. It's all those little bits of text. The little bits of text that I like during the main phase that you probably should read because it's the first line, but you just don't. You kind of rely on your opponent to know their own cards, which is a really bad thing to be doing. I should, Anyway, Yu-Gi-Oh players can't read. There's a reason that is an ongoing trend. So we're starting off with preparation of rites. And blessing. So a very decent searching start from Voiceless Voice here. Is going to give them a lot of advantage, which is obviously great for them. Not so great for me. Really wish I saw DD Crow. Not DD Crow. Drow and Lotbird. Both the same. But still, yeah, you're just kind of like getting it going and then building it up. So open up with the Diviner again. This time they've decided to send the Herald from the extra deck. Now the assumption is that they have Trius in the hand. Otherwise you would always send the Trius. Activate the Trius. So very lucky I didn't have an Imperm or anything, because then that would have been dodged like no tomorrow. And then again you just lose advantage, or you lose interactions. That's like basically what you're taking away. I quite like this. I do like the ability of, within reason, with the Tempais to literally just sit there and go, yeah, do whatever, build what you want. Within reason, like, you need to know what the cards are doing. I'm familiar with how the Voiceless Voice build, and I think what I had in the hand was a Magnemute and something else, and the opponent does play really, really well here, actually, because what I was doing is, like, I could have Magnemuted the Saphira from the graveyard, but they'd already added a ritual spell, so they were already going to get the ritual anyway. So I was like, okay, well, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to wait and see if they get greedy and go into Dynamundo, or as soon as they put a low into the graveyard, and then get rid of the low when they're trying to bring it back. Obviously, that wasn't the case, because I thought they were going to use low as the ritual fodder, and they didn't. They used the Saravis, which again was very, very clever in playing around that form of interaction, because as long as that low stayed on the board, the second the Skull Guardian was successfully ritual summoned, or hits the board, in fairness, they've got the Omni Negate there. And there's no point in trying to burn the Omni Negate unless you have 2 forms of interaction. So, like, unless I had a Magnemute and a Nibiru, which I didn't, and the Magnemute would then have to be threatening enough to take away something from the graveyard, which at this point in time, I don't think there's anything in that graveyard that if I targeted it with a Magnemute, that my opponent would want to get rid of it. They're probably like, yeah, okay, whatever, my board's strong enough as it is. Magnemute's not strong enough to deal with any of this board. The only thing you'd be gaining is the Magnemute search in the end phase. So the ability of getting 2 lows into rotation is very, very important, because it means Skull Guardian was always going to have that protection. We've got the trap card live and active and everything else, and the blessing. So I think the only thing that could have made this end board any better is if there was a second blessing. But even then, like, the only thing I could do is go battle phase evenly and then droplet. And sneak peek, you don't play evenly in Tempais because they want their battle phase. Like, you don't want to be breaking boards and not have a battle phase. The Tempais have to OTK. They will struggle if they don't OTK, which is why in the first duel you only saw me have 1 turn. In this one, you'll probably only see me have 1 turn. They can enter a grind game because they do have the ability to float some of the synchros back from the graveyard, but by that point you already put them into rotation. So we start off with Lightning Storm and we go for the back row, because if I go for front row, the only thing I'm going to be hitting is an IP, which really isn't worth much, to be honest. And the idea was, do I have Droplet? I can't remember if I have Droplet or not. I might have done to try and chain the Droplet to it, or maybe I didn't, because I would have used it earlier. I can't remember exactly what was in my hand. I keep placing it in that zone there. So we're going to go Prosperity. We're going to banish 6. I already know the 6 that I'm playing. Like, at the end of the day, if my opponent doesn't have a D barrier, I'm going to banish my 6 Synchros. We hit 2 Cosmics, an Imperm, the Paedra, a Drow and Lotbird, typical, and I think another one of the field spell. And this is where I kind of misplayed a little bit. So I was reading the field spell, and the field spell only allows you, like, you can activate a second field spell, but you can't activate the effect, because the effect to add and then discard is a use effect, not an activate effect. So this is where a bit of a misplay comes into account, and what I should have thought about a little bit more is I take the field spell, which is correct. So I've got 2 field spells now. The idea was I would activate 1 field spell, try and bait out the Skull Guardian, that he would negate the activation. Now they don't do that, shocker. I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, but I activate the field spell. Skull Guardian is like, yeah, okay, the activation is fine. And then I go to activate the effect to search. So if in my hand I've got Chandra, which is the fire, I've got something else, I can't remember, and then, so Skull Guardian negates and destroys. What else is that? What is that? Oh, Magnamute, isn't it? So we've got a Magnamute. Is it a Magnamute? Oh, Ghost Ogre. It was Ghost Ogre. Okay, so we chain Ghost Ogre to hit that. And then this is where I misplayed, is I should have still activated the second field spell, because then the second field spell means that I was protected during the main phase, and I completely forgot about IP Masquerade, even though it's sitting there staring me in the face. So what I should have done is I should have gone activate the second field spell when I'm catching up. So I've got a Magnamute in the hand, which obviously I could have, what I also could have done is I could have summoned down the Magnamute and then forced to go to the battle phase. But stupidly what I do is I summon down the Chandra and attempt to go battle phase, and then they go, end of main phase, IP. And I completely realized, I looked up and I was like, oh crap, there's still an IP on the board. But what I should have done here is I should have activated the field spell and then attempt to go battle phase, because then IP can't affect me. The best thing it could do would be go SP and banish my field spell. I'd go into battle phase, I would attack with the Chandra. Chandra's effect will trigger. They will use SP in retaliation, I suppose, in response to banish itself and SP and the Chandra. And then I would go resolve Chandra's effect to get me the Paedra. Paedra would get me the quick play spell. Quick play spell would get me everything else. So there was a bit of a misplay there. Lesson learned on that one. Anyway, going into the third and final game, I decided to go first, and I played this so badly. So I opened up Shifter, and I was so excited to see Shifter. I was like, yes, they can't play with Shifter. Dropped it, and then looked at my hand. I was like, I've got Droplets and Droll. Both of these are completely dead in my hand now. We reveal 6, so we see Heatwave, which is like, bro, what a completely dead card. We see both of the green dragons, a Droll Lockbird, a Terraforming, and a Kaiman. All of them are pretty useful. Like, obviously, I can't use Droll. I'm under D Shifter. Heatwave's completely dead. Like, that's pointless. Like, it's such a, if you open it, GG. If you don't open it, GG to yourself, I suppose. Obviously, I don't need to worry about Droll because Shifter's active and live and everything else. But there's no point in me taking the green dragon. It's got to be a Kaiman or anything else. So I take the Kaiman, and I'm like, well, at the very least, what I can do is I can set the Kaiman and make my plays. I think I still have Paedra or the field spell. I think it's Paedra that I have. And what I was trying to do here, and again, this is kind of why I'm not the biggest fan of Shifter either in this particular deck, is you have to control your resources. So we're activating Kaiman now, and because it's outside the battle phase, we're going to add. So we're just going to add the Paedra. With normal summoning the Paedra, that's then going to use its effect now. I will banish the Kaiman in a minute, don't worry. And then it's either going for the field spell or a Kaiman. I go for a second Kaiman, just so I have that ability to kind of build up, because like I could go for the field spell, but then I'm just burning my own resource. We special summon down the Chandra. Now, this is where more people will go into the Heroic Seals, which is what I should have done. But I decided to leave both on the board. I was like, I've got a... If my opponent declares an attack, I can summon the green one from the deck, which means they can't be destroyed by battle. I've then also got the monster that I don't take any battle damage, so I've got a nice little wall here. And what I didn't realise is my opponent had already opened up Super Poly, so I was like, yeah, okay. So they go draw phase, Super Poly, and I was like, that's why you go into Spheres. That would have been clever. I was just making sure I didn't banish too much of my resource, but I was really kind of in for the long haul on that one as it was, which is slightly annoying or slightly disappointing, I suppose. Straight into Grura. On the plus side, Grura is not going to get a draw, so that's all good. And yeah, we just kind of sit here and go, I get hit with a Cosmic, and I'm like, bro, really? So I was like, I might as well search out a Paedra, so I've got follow-up for the next turn. So yeah, working it around from that one. And yeah, I've kind of like lost all my resource, and I'm like, can they OTK? Like, how far can they OTK under a Shifter? And I'm hoping that they can't. I'm completely defenseless at this exact moment in time. It's like, yeah, there's nothing I can do. On the plus side, I know that I've got the Paedra, so if I am able to survive, I'm able to go back, because I know I've got Droll, which is just going to be free discard fodder. I've got Pager that's going to start my combos off again, and I've got Forbidden Droplet. So I've got the ability to do pretty much everything I need to in order to protect and build and go from there. So we're going through the combo. So Blessing into low, activate the ritual spell using low from the hand, summoning down the Skull Guardian, which is fine. Obviously, without the low in rotation, they'll struggle, but then you just add the low anyway, and then you can normal summon it. Yes, of course, low will be stuck in attack mode, but I'm assuming the idea at this point was trying to push for an OTK. So within reason, because the Saphira couldn't hit the graveyard and couldn't be used as to ritual summon, they are then restricted by the ritual spell itself. So we've got 2 blessings in rotation. We've got a 3k off of the Garura. We've got 4,100, so 7,100, and then like 50 off of the Diviner. So we're currently sitting with 850 life points left. I'm like, whew, I'm so glad that Tempais are slightly helmet and can OTK quite easily, I hope. Yeah, so I think my hand at the moment is Pager that we know, plus Droplets, and Droll and Lockbird. Now, obviously, Droll is completely pointless. Couldn't use it during my previous turn, so that was a waste. So the reason I didn't set the Droplets was because, obviously, I couldn't send anything, which, again, was a good reason not to set it. So now it's just trying to figure out, bait the Skull Guardian and what that set card could be. Obviously, the theory is that that set card could very easily be the Blessing Trap card, or it could be an Imperm, which can be both damaging in scenarios. So we start off with the Pager. We're going to use Pager's effect here to search. They chain the Skull Guardian. We chain Forbidden Droplet. Send in the Pager so that will resolve. And the reason you send the Pager is if that back row isn't Imperm, they can't do anything with it. So we'll add the Kaiman. We've negated and halved the Skull Guardian, which is really important. We're now going to go to the battle phase, activate the Kaiman, because we need to get it special summoned. Like, I don't have any other way to get a dragon to the board. Declare with the Chandra. Chandra's effect is going to summon out the green one on this one, so that my monsters can't be destroyed by battle. I would still take 550 off of the Chandra. Declare with the green one. Green one brings back the Pager that I've already had. Pager's already used his effect, but again, now I don't take any battle damage. I've used both of their effects, so we're going to use the Chandra's effect to Synchro Summon, which will be enough to get over the Skull Guardian now. So I took that 550 damage, so I'm now on like 300 life points. So we go into the Bident Dragon. Bident Dragon will then revive one back from the graveyard, which will be the Chandra, because you need that tuner on the board. Then attack with a Bident to kill the Skull Guardian. Just making sure that, like, using the dice to calculate that we have kept 3 attacks declared, so that when the Synchro goes to the graveyard, we're in a good position. Garura's only 15, so we swing at low for 1,500. Then we'll swing at Garura for 1,700. So that's all of the attacks done. That's 6 attacks done. Now the next thing to do is Synchro Summon using Pager's effect, because it's the only one we haven't used yet. I think we haven't used Chandra's effect. I think we used Fadra's effect. But the idea is that you're then going to Synchro Summon, and then you just, do you want to just make it easy and just go into Trident Dragon and just attack 3 times. But then you've also got a question what that back row is. But then I'd like to think that if that back row is anything important, you'd go for that. So instead we go into the Transcendent Dragon. Transcendent Dragon is going to swing for 3k, and then of course bring back the Bident to swing for the rest of the game. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, share. Till next time, or as always, stay safe and happy dueling.